Hi, I'm Brent Stafford, and this is RegWatch by RegulatorWatch.com. We have something special for you today. You're here in our production suite for an interview with Aaron Biebert, the director of A Billion Lives. Thanks for joining us, Aaron.
You bet, Brent. Great to be here.
Aaron, let me ask you this. A lot of people want to know why you got into doing this documentary. Tell us the real juice here on this.
Right. Well, it's kind of a crazy story. I have some friends that are vapors, and at one point remember bringing up the fact that they were vaping formaldehyde and that there was antifreeze and all of these things. And when they pointed out to me that that stuff was just absolutely incorrect and that those were actually false studies that came out that the news media was parroting out there, I felt kind of foolish, especially when I found out that the World Health Organization is predicting that 1 billion people will die from smoking this century.
They might or might not be able to help you quit, but there are definite harms that they can cause.
We don't yet know about vaping.
The dangers of e-cigarettes are clear.
It's the same as antifreeze.
We used to have very dangerous products, and the makers of those used to lie about those.
There is the never-ending concern about the alleged effects of smoking.
The evidence is certainly inconclusive at this time.
We now have much safer products, and the public health community is lying about those.
The e-cigarette makers are making these for kids because they make chocolate and other flavors.
What's going on?
Money. Funding.
Money is corrupting our most trusted organizations.
Money is corrupting our most trusted organizations.
Yeah, sad but true. Yeah, if you look at even like the FDA and the CDC, where they get a lot of their funding now, the CDC says they get no funding from anyone else, but bottom line is they're getting a lot of money from Big Pharma for their foundation and some of the other work that they're doing. So there is absolutely too much money going into federal governments all over the world from smoking and from Big Pharma, and they're corrupted because of it.
So how do you find that? I know that you use lie as a part of your messaging. Did you have to really think about whether you were going to use that word, and what's behind that decision that you decided that lie is acceptable to use?
Right. Well, that obviously is a very strong word, and we did not decide to use that word lightly. But when people who have spent their entire lives trying to understand the human body and have stated publicly that they care about public health and that they want to help people, when they say things that are so obviously not true, there's really no other way to describe it. They are lying, and they are liars. And when you start to see their funding and you see why that's happening, there's really no other word to use. And so we don't, this is going to be a hard-hitting documentary. We're not interested in beating around the bush on this. We're going to go right into the issues, and we're going to call it what it is. If people are lying, they are lying. And so even though, yes, some people might think that's a little bit too strong, I don't know that when you have 1 billion people's lives on the line that there's really any need to mitigate the way that we talk about people. So yeah, we don't plan on backing off of that language at all. Smoking, it's good business, so they lie.
We know that they don't actually allow people to stop smoking.
Now there's even more evidence that these are a gateway to smoking regular cigarettes.
The pollution of disposable.
The e-cigarette industry has been ripping tactic after tactic from Big Tobacco's playbook.
Today's electronic cigarettes are no better than the Joe Camels of the past.
Do you find that the fact that you don't vape or smoke provides some credibility for you with, skeptics you're trying to interview, and then as well, obviously with supporters too?
Some people seem to think that adds credibility because for the most part, vapors are folks that have kind of gotten a lot of flack from people, whether it was their mother or their doctor or whoever. So they're really excited that some non-vapor actually is taking some interest in it. I don't think it necessarily matters because credibility for the filmmaker, I don't think, is ultimately going to be the big one with this, because we interviewed so many experts that ultimately I think their credibility will be the thing that matters most. But it certainly doesn't hurt that we are taking more of a neutral approach to it, for sure.
So the researchers out there that have actually researched that arguably is negative for vapors, are you meeting with resistance to talk to them, or are they happy to sit down?
Well, we've definitely tried to reach out to everybody, whether they were for vaping or against vaping. We just really wanted to find the truth. That was the main point of this film, is that someone needed to set the record straight on this. And so we reached out to everybody, and We did get resistance, yeah. The anti-vaping folks really had no interest in sitting down because, for whatever reason, in fact, folks from several of the major organizations actually asked us whether we were pro-vaping or anti-vaping before they agreed to the interview. We told them that we were literally just looking for the facts and that we weren't anti-vaping. At that point is when we usually got the big no.
What's been the most surprising thing you've learned from those you've interviewed for the documentary?
Yeah, I think the most surprising thing to me was when I got to hear that the folks that are anti-tobacco would actually be meeting with the tobacco companies to talk about ways to help keep tobacco alive. Now, they wouldn't technically say that, but you know, when you start to see how shady this gets, of course, anti-tobacco people need cigarettes, if you think about it. Otherwise, they don't have a business anymore. You know, you have big tobacco and then you have big charity. Big charity is a group that really depends on donations, and they depend on people being afraid, and they depend on people being sick, or they won't have a business. And you look at the American Cancer Society, for instance, they make nearly $1 billion a year. American Heart Association, nearly $500 million a year. The American Lung Association in there, and you're at almost $2 billion a year that these organizations get from fighting these sort of things. Well, if smoke, let's say vaping, which a lot of people are saying is a great alternative to smoking and much healthier, let's say that takes over and smoking kind of goes away. Well, what happens to all those people? They lose their jobs, they lose their funding, they lose their prestige, they lose all of that sort of thing. That's probably the most surprising thing, is that you would see groups that are anti-smoking actually supporting smoking.
Do you think you guys are going to make an impact? Are you going to be effective?
Right, well, once you get the truth out there, you know, it's tough to know what the impact will be for sure, but anytime you shine light on a dark subject where there is evil and there's corruption, you're going to see it change one way or the other. And so we're very confident that this documentary will affect things, because there are people that are hiding and doing things they shouldn't be doing, and once the world knows about it, most likely they're going to stop doing those things.
Finally, here for our audience, Aaron, you know, what can they expect from you guys? You mentioned that the documentary is going to come out in 2016. Any hint on when that might be?
Right, well, we're still working on the actual premiere date, but it'll be early 2016, and then it'll be in theaters mid-year, and definitely we're planning on having a release in Canada, and it will be in theaters in Canada, so that'll be exciting.